Look, I understand that summer is the perfect time of year to completely check out of the busyness of the rest of the year in our lives as families. And I get that we want to make this time of year so fun for our kids. But I think that there's so much about social media these days that is creating some unintentional pressure on us as moms, especially to make sure that we make summers the absolute greatest for our kids. And honestly, it's well intentioned, but it's unsustainable. And I think that it's time that we debunk some of these myths about what it means to be a good mom in the summertime so that we can really create a meaningful standard for what a great summer looks like for our kids that's also practical and sustainable. If that's what you need more of in your life today, you're in the right place. Let's simplify things together. So I'm just going to come out and say it. I am so over social media convincing us in the most subtle ways that we are not doing enough for our kids. And that especially applies to the summers. Look, our everyday lives are so disrupted when we go from August through May with one approach to how we keep our family going, and then something completely different for 2 to 3 months. And it is a great window of opportunity to do things differently. But I feel like when we send a certain message out there that this has to be the ultimate experience for our kids, red flags are going up for me. I feel like it's not always beneficial to our kids to take this approach, and it's really hard on us as parents as well. So I wanted to take time today to call out 5 myths about parenthood that I think have to be debunked. And we need to just shift the way that we are taking these well intentioned messages and reframing them in a way that's going to set us up with more realistic expectations that we can actually meet as we go through the summer. So let's talk about myth number one. You have to create magic for summer. I see so many inspirational posts that honestly, genuinely, I think they are well intentioned and I love seeing what families are doing in their homes. But the problem with social media is that it's a highlight reel. And for many of the creators in the online space, that's what their entire page might be about, is what they're doing to inspire magic in their families, whether that's through creative play or process art. And while I think that it's really great to be inspired by these activities, we have to remember that this is what these creators do for a living. If they're creating content specifically in the niche of play inspiration for kids, we have to remember that their context is different than the everyday average mom who's at home with her kids in the summer. You are not creating content to inspire this type of play for other parents. You might be taking one or two of those ideas of inspiration and executing it at like 25%. At least that's my experience personally. I don't want us to feel this pressure to create this magical Instagram worthy summer for your kids. I think sometimes as adults, we forget that summer is magical because of what kids bring to the table. Being a child is magical in and of itself. You don't have to create the magic. The kids have the magic. What we need to do is create the conditions that allow them to really bring that out in themselves. So you don't have to have these elaborate experiences every day. Your kids can create magic out of the simplest things. I mean, think about, especially with like toddlers, preschoolers, give them a cardboard box. They're going to occupy themselves for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. I mean, seriously, there was a time in my life as a parent where all I did was save cardboard boxes, bubble wrap, bottle caps, just random recyclable goods that my kids turned into the coolest stuff. Our kids don't have to be entertained for hours by something that we are giving to them. What they need are invitations to be creative, to be imaginative, to be playful. So give yourself permission to really scale back what your expectations are of yourself and what you need to create for your kids instead of thinking about what do I need to, buy or schedule or plan out for my kids. And turn that instead into what do we already have available to us in our home that we could just utilize in a different way or put out in a different environment. I mean, I love nothing more than taking indoor toys outside in the summer. I mean, my daughter's playhouse is outside so much in the summertime. We just set it up on the porch and she's out there having so much fun with literally the same toys that have been inside with her the rest of the year. Or I love the inspiration to bring magnet tiles outside. I see people use them on their garage doors as a vertical magnetic surface. Like there's so much already available to our kids. Sometimes we just have to create the right conditions for them to really tap into it. So give yourself permission to not be the creator of magic, but to instead provide the right conditions for your kids to just live out the magic that's already there inside of them. Another one that I think I've heard it too much. I'm done with it. You only get 18 summers with your kids, so make the most of them. You do only get 18 summers in theory with your kids, I guess. We could frame it that way. Yes. But first of all, let's not discount the fact that 18 summers is a lot of summers together. That is a good chunk of time. That's probably 25% of their lives. Also, you get 18 falls, winters, and springs with them. You get 18 full years with your kids. That's incredible. We don't need to be guilt tripping ourselves into making something extraordinary out of these summers together because we have an abundance of time with our children. So instead of focusing on the scarcity mindset, how can we shift into this mindset of, I have so much time with my children. This is wonderful. What that means is I have enough time available to have fun with them, to create memories with them. And I have enough time to get other things done as well and not feel the guilt that I shouldn't be, getting things done on my to-do list or running my business or going to work because there's not enough time with my kids. You have more than enough time for your kids and you can have both. And this is not a situation where we are limited or short on time. I have to tell you, I've been working on putting together my No Stress Summers handbook, and I really wanted to give moms an opportunity to see how you can incorporate meaningful time to connect with your kids with a 5-minute window of time or a 30-minute window of time. You don't have to have these like full days of committing to spending dedicated, uninterrupted time with your kids. I mean, yes, if you have the time to set aside to do that with them, amazing. But I think that it's also really important to realize that there are so many meaningful ways to create memories with our kids with just a 5-minute window of time that can be just as meaningful. And sometimes that almost feels more meaningful because it's just more organic and you can kind of build it into your day. And it's these little touch points that really add up and have a cumulative effect that deepens the quality of your relationship with your kids as opposed to planning out like a whole day adventure for the family. The kids are complaining they're hot. One kid's tired. One kid doesn't want to walk anymore. Another kid's saying this is boring. I mean, you just feel like, why did I even bother planning this out? My family's miserable, right? So just remember that there are so many ways that you can make the most of the time that you have with your kids and you have an abundance of time. So don't buy into this belief that there's not enough time to enjoy our kids and our summers together. You have more than enough time. I promise. The third myth, I don't hear it explicitly said, but I see it. I hear it from my clients. I know my friends have expressed this to me as well. There is this pressure on us as modern day moms to not only manage our households, show up for our jobs or our businesses that we're running, but then also somehow simultaneously constantly present and engaged with our kids in order to be a good mom. I don't even understand how that's supposed to be manageable, how we're supposed to be doing that. So you get these cycles where, you are trying to connect with your kids, engage with them, be playful, and create these meaningful moments with them. But while you're sitting there, all you're thinking about is, I'm sitting here and trying to do this, but I have so much I have to get done. But then when you're trying to get those things done, all you're thinking about is how you want to be playing with your kids and how you should be giving them your time and attention. And that is just a vicious cycle where you don't feel like you're getting anything done and you don't feel like you're effective as a parent. And so what I really want to convey here is that that is a myth, that that is something that you can accomplish. it's an unrealistic aspiration for us. We're always going to be feeling like we're falling short if that's the standard we're trying to live up to. Our children 100% benefit from time alone, from time engaging with their siblings without adult interaction. They have to have that time to explore their interests, to express themselves freely without the watchful eye of an adult nearby. We have to give them, we owe them those opportunities. I cannot stress this enough as an educator. They absolutely need that in their lives. Play is the work of our children. Again, that magic that's inside of them, that comes out the most when they are just allowed to be free and have unstructured time to lean into that. And I think that we actually unintentionally hinder our kids from being able to tap into that because we feel like we always have to provide structure and entertainment and be the ones implementing what it is we want our kids to experience. That's absolutely not the case. I want you to start leaning into this idea that it's to your kids' benefit to have some time away from mom. It really is. And I know that it's hard to start making that transition if your kids are used to you being around and being their playmate constantly. But believe me when I say you can slowly start with, a 5-minute window of time where mom's stepping away. She's going to go change laundry. She's going to be right back. Mom's going to go get a drink of water. She's going to be right back. And teaching your kids that mom comes back. And I fully trust that you are going to be able to enjoy this time while I step away. Slowly but surely, they will get more comfortable with this, and you will see how they are thriving as a result. And you then get to step away and get some things done on your to-do list, guilt-free, right? Because you know your child is getting what they need, and you are also getting done the other things that need to happen guilt-free, so that when it's time to come back and play with your child, you can also do that and give them your undivided attention because you've gotten a few things off your to-do list, right? This is something that I really built into the handbook that I created for summertime. If you want to check it out, you can go to momlifehandbook.com/summer. I'll link it in the show notes as well. But a big piece of that is helping you figure out, how do I set up my day? How do I structure it so that I really get this nice balance of getting things done while also being present and connected with my kids? And we really dive into how to do that strategically and effectively, how to help your child learn how to play independently. How to carve out time for everything that needs to happen, right? Because that's a hard balance to strike. So feel free to go check that out. I've done it all for you. It's just a matter of diving into a quick training and putting it into action. Myth number 4 is that the perfect summer means saying yes to every opportunity. I mean, there are so many fun things that come our way during the summer, but if you haven't noticed, our kids can't keep up when we say yes to everything. We've got camps, we've got swimming, we're going out for ice cream after dinner, we're going to concerts in the park, like whatever it is that you've got going on, saying yes to it all is so fun, but it doesn't become fun anymore when our kids are stretched too thin, they're exhausted, they're having sugar crashes. I mean, the effects are cumulative. And so I want you to give yourself permission to say yes with intention. Be clear on the experiences that you want to have for your family this year and say yes to those things. And then say no with confidence to the things that aren't in alignment for you so that your family can show up to those yeses refreshed, enthusiastic, and ready to actually enjoy them. If you try to do too much, it's not going to be fun. So remember that as your reason to say no. And I think you're going to find that this just falls into place so much more easily, and you're going to enjoy yourself that much more as a result. And then myth number 5, summers are meant to be carefree and fun. I know so many families that absolutely love to bring that element of spontaneity into their days over the summer because let's face it, you don't have that flexibility throughout the rest of the year. And this is a great time to be able to say yes to spontaneity because the consequences of those choices aren't as significant as when you're trying to get through your days during the school year. So I'm not saying that you can't be spontaneous. But what I am saying is that our kids are so used to so much structure during the rest of the year that when we remove that structure of even just our daily rhythms and routines, and we don't replace it with some loose structure, they really struggle. It's hard to go from such a structured everyday life to no structure at all, and to not know what to expect one day to the next, to not even have say over what that looks like. And so, if you notice your children really struggle with transitions or leaving from one activity and going to another or having more frequent meltdowns, it could be that they are lacking the structure that would just kind of act as guardrails for your family and help keep things a little bit more on track. I'm not promoting anything super rigid here. I never think that that's beneficial to a family, but I do think that it's important that you come up with some predictability in your days or your weeks and that you communicate it to your kids so that they know what to anticipate. And you're going to find that they go with the flow a lot more easily when they understand what the loose plan is. And that's also something that I really made central to this handbook was not only what does your loose structure look like so it's flexible and things that need to happen get done and that you also have time for all the fun that you want to have with your kids, but also how do we convey that to our kids? How do we set the expectations? How do we let them know what to anticipate so that they can be effective team players as you try to move through your summer? So you're going to find that I've taken all my best strategies for kids of any age to know exactly what to expect from day to day, even when that plan is changing and evolving as your summer goes on. So again, be sure to check that out at momlifehandbook.com/summer. I think that you're really going to love that resource. It's just so easy when it's all been done for you. There's no starting from scratch. There's no trial and error. This is proven strategies that work for me and have worked for my clients that now are just packaged up and ready to go for you. So I think that you're going to find that to be something that's really helpful. I hope that by taking time to debunk these summer myths about mom life, you've been able to relieve some of the pressure and the guilt that can accompany summer as a parent. I want you to remember that the goal here is to create a balanced, enjoyable summer for both you and your kids. This is not about creating an over the top, high expectation summer. That's just a recipe for disaster. I don't want you to be frustrated this summer. I want you to have fun. So I hope that by debunking some of these myths or narratives, that you are receiving the encouragement you've been looking for to do things differently. I don't think that you have to approach parenting the way that we are so often told is the right way to support our families. Lean into what you know is best for your family, and you're going to have a summer that feels really good for both you and your kids. I hope you've enjoyed tuning into this episode. Be sure to check out the handbook at momlifehandbook.com/summer. And I'll see you next week when we're diving into how to finally get your kids to stop eating all day, every day this summer. I can't tell you how many parents have reached out to me to say, oh my gosh, I cannot keep up with all the snacking and the requests for meals. What do I do? We're going to dive into that next week. So be sure that you hit follow so that episode lands straight in your library next week if that is something that you have been struggling with your kids this summer as well. And as we wrap up this week's episode, remember, mom life is complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Here's to leading with purpose and intention as you simplify mom life in the week ahead.